Tanya, we saw that, right? We saw that in the polling that APF did of young people, Generation Z blacks, a lot of whom never received any instruction on Black history, that we saw that some of their attitudes on, how pervasive racism is in current society was influenced by that. Is that correct?
Yeah. No, that's exactly right. We did, in partnership with you and many other a number of organizations, commissioned some research prior to the election, our Race Forward messaging project, in which we were focused on, this issue of speaking about race, identifying it, calling it out, and saying this is actually what is being attacked, and the root of this is anti-Blackness. And so you're right. What we found was that our younger generations were particularly impacted, and had because of the lack of history and the lack of information and the erasure that's happening. And in fact, this is where we saw some of the larger margins in terms of the discrepancies between, how people determining whether or not people were going to even get out and vote and engage. Right. And this wasn't about who you're voting for. It's about whether or not you're actually engaged and understand, how our democracy works. And so, yes, and we're continuing that project moving forward because we think it's necessary because, as you said, it combines it underlying that is this erasure that we're not learning, that our kids are not learning about their history. No, it's not just Black and brown kids. It's all children are not learning the history and understanding how this country was built. And if you don't understand it, and if you also don't understand how our democracy is supposed to work, the ideals behind it, then you don't know what you're losing. And that is what those that are attempting to erase our history, those that are, the side that is trying to dismantle the Department of Education and all of our government agencies, our civil rights infrastructure, they're counting on that kids and our younger generations also don't understand what they're losing, so they don't know how to fight.
My. And Daryl, I think it's telling that, we are in Women's History Month, and last month was Black History Month. And the Department of Defense, with all those African American and Latino and Asian American and even Native American service people were not able to celebrate Black History Month. They banned the celebration of Black History Month. They banned the celebration of Women's History Month. So that is so telling. And when we're in this particular week, Tanya, this is the week of what's called Her Dream Deferred, that bridges Black history and women's history. Can you tell everybody, just share with everyone what Her Dream Deferred is? And I would love to hear, Chancellor King, your reactions to why this kind of a bridge week is so critical. Go ahead, Tanya.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. You're right. It's a unique bridge that African American Policy Forum is addressing, that combination between obviously Black History Month, which really should be all year, right? is all year, and Women's History again all year. And this was started about 10 years ago as we're celebrating the UN, decade of African descent. And, we've had this, talk about, we've been together, Barbara, and engaging in efforts internationally to really highlight the historical narrative, right, of people of African descent. And that, so over the years, African American Policy Forum has really tried to address the range of issues that are confronting Black women, and it's in order to bring necessary attention to issues such as police killing of Black women, right? The gender dimensions of the school-to-prison pipeline, and also the maternal mortality epidemic facing Black women, because we're dying. We're not getting the necessary, and this is across socioeconomic income. So we've heard the stories of Serena Williams having problems.
Yes.
I mean, now let's talk about Serena's having a problem, in as well in terms of getting the necessary care. So that's the type of thing that we are engaging in this week of highlighting that. And we've synthesized a variety of activities, such as really highlighting the status of Black women and how we've been impacted in the early stages of this new administration in areas in the workplace, politics, higher education, health equity, and youth leadership. And, throughout this week, we're going to continue to share resources that those new ones, but also those that have been archived. And so we want you to stay tuned and go to our website, African American Policy Forum, AAPF.org, in which we're going to really provide you with useful resources and activities that you can engage in to really talk about the vision and the future of Black women. And we're going to do this also through a social media campaign, which is, 10 years, envision a future where Black women, girls, and femmes are, this is, what do you envision? Give us that information on your Instagram page. Like, we're really trying to engage you and make sure that you have a proactive vision, an idea about what it is the future is for Black women and girls. And that's what we really want you people to engage with us on at apf.org and showcase in other events that you may be engaging in as well.
Wow.
And that is really great. And, Tanya, just a wonderful, presentation on all that Her Dream Deferred is all about and all the actions that are going on across the country. And certainly we encourage everyone to go to APPF to get information. African American Policy Forum, AAPF, to get information with regards to what's happening. And Secretary King, I know, and I'm hoping you can stay with us a little bit longer. If not, we understand. We appreciate your being here. But one of the questions I certainly, and I know you wanted to address some of the things that are going on with Her Dream Deferred and how that relates to all the education access that you have there at SUNY and that you've dealt with across the country. But I wanted to sort of wrap that in with this question. And, we've talked a lot about Ruby Bridges. And one of the things when Tanya Clayhouse was talking about Ruby Bridges, the first thing that always comes to my mind is courage. The courage it took for this little girl to do this. And and when I'm thinking through that, I'm thinking about the Department of Education, as I understand it, its role really was to referee, to be certain to be that boundaries and guardrails were put in place for those students that were disadvantaged. And when we talk about the erasure of the history, when we talk about what it took for Ruby Bridges to walk in, I begin to wonder about the courage it takes to stand up in times like this. If you were the Secretary of Education today, what would you do to preserve the department under the current attack?
Well, you're exactly right. And look, you'd like to hope that Linda McMahon would have the personal integrity to stand up and say, we can't dismantle this. Here's what is so important about the work of the department. Here's why it matters to the future health of our economy and to our national security. And try to move the conversation to one not about dismantling the department, but about how we strengthen education and improve access to opportunity, because that's the only path forward for the country's well-being. Unfortunately, I'm not optimistic based on what we've seen so far. But then what that means is we need courage from local leaders. We need state superintendents and school district superintendents who will say, we're not going to lie about our history. We're going to teach the truth about our history. We're not going to walk away from our commitment to ensuring that students with disabilities have access to all the support they need. We're going to need courage from community-based organizations and civil rights organizations to keep challenging not only the administration, but states and districts and higher ed institutions to serve all students, to fulfill their responsibility, to give equitable access to advanced coursework, to extracurriculars, to quality teaching. And they're going to have to call out when folks are falling short, because we won't have the infrastructure, the peers, of the Education Department Office for Civil Rights, at least for a time. And so we're going to need that local pressure to make sure that people are doing right by kids and families.
Yes. And, today, Chancellor King and Tanya Clay House, Attorney Tanya Clay House, there were two lawsuits filed. One filed yesterday by the NAACP and another today by a combination of the federal teachers unions, the American Association of University Professors, and two school districts in Massachusetts. Both lawsuits are in federal court. One is in federal court in Massachusetts, the one I just mentioned, and the NAACP lawsuit was filed here in Maryland. I want, to talk about, what do the two of you think about the fact that people are not cowering? There have been over 100 lawsuits now. It was like 85 3 weeks ago with all the things that have happened since then. So I believe it's over 100 plus lawsuits right now against this administration, all because they just won't do it the right way. They just insist on, breaking and doing whatever they want to do instead of doing what's legally required. But what do you think about these lawsuits? What does, do they pretend, the kind of fight back that's needed in this moment? Is this the kind of, work that we all have to do, as, to make sure that our constitutional rights are protected, especially the right to be educated?
Well, I'll defer to the Chancellor first, and then I'll come in after. I'll forever my boss.
Thanks, Tanya. Look, I think these lawsuits are very important. There's also a lawsuit that's been filed by 21 attorneys general challenging the cuts at the department. So all three litigation efforts, I think, are very important. And so far, the courts have held. So far, the courts have rejected actions by the administration that are clearly in violation of the law. And that's the case here. The role of the department is prescribed in the reauthorization of the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, which was originally adopted in 1965. The Every Student Succeeds Act lays out what the department's activities will be. That's in the law. The Higher Education Act, also first adopted in 1965, has been reauthorized multiple times. That defines a role for the department in law. Congress has appropriated funding to the department for a variety of activities, from civil rights enforcement to managing the federal student aid system to the data and research work that is so important to knowing where we're struggling and where we're succeeding as a country. So all that's in law. I think when courts see that, it will be clear that what the administration is doing violates the law. And then we need Congress to step up and say, we're not going to allow an administration to ignore the laws that we've passed.
And I appreciate. Could I jump in there, Barbara?
Yes, please.
So, and just to piggyback off of that, in addition to these lawsuits being filed, organizations and lawyers have had to stand up because, as you know, Barbara, there has been a memo that from 47 to the Department of Justice, essentially threatening lawyers,
right,
that might even attempt to challenge this administration. And we've already seen the capitulation, unfortunately, of one of our largest law firms. And we've also seen that, that occurring across different colleges and universities. Unfortunately, Columbia is one of those. And so we, there's also the courage that it must take of lawyers right now to stand in that breach, right? To stand there, to continue to fight back as with these lawsuits that are out there. The reason that 47 has directed the DOJ to go after lawyers is because of what the Chancellor said. the courts are standing firm, and we're actually winning in the rule of law. And so you have, dozens and dozens